Wake up.
This is Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI fans and anyone who loves chatting about data. I'm Hopkins.
I'm Mark Proctor.
I'm Giles Mail.
I'm Sue Bays.
Excellent.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you, Sue? I'm going to ask Sue, so not we all don't shout out at the same time.
Yeah. I'm really good, thank you. I'm 4 weeks off Boston. Training is going really well. Yeah, so I'm buzzing.
Good.
I'm getting very excited. I'm scared, but I'm getting very excited. And work's going good. Life is good.
So you've got Boston, and then 6 days later you've got London. Is that right?
Yeah, and then a week, yes. So I've got Boston on the 20th of April. So excited. And then the 26th of April, I've got London Marathon. And then I'm running Saltash Half Marathon the week after. And then 2 weeks after, I'm running Plymouth Half Marathon. And then on the 6th of June, I'm running Dartmoor Discovery, which is a 32-mile ultra. I have decided I'm going to raise some funds for a local charity, which called Jeremiah's Journey, which supports bereaved children that lose, loved ones when they're children. So I figured I'm doing all this anyway, so I might as well see if I can do something good out of it. But yeah, no, it's been a really interesting process actually. So yeah.
Is there going to be a little link that we can share with people to donate?
Yes, I will do. Thank you. That would be lovely. But yes.
Lovely.
So I'm super excited. Scared, but excited.
And I'm going to come to Giles because I think he's probably got more to say than the rest of us in terms of activity. Mark, what's anything been happening?
For me,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't go in a camper van anywhere. I haven't done any of that stuff. I went to the GenCFO live conference last week, which is all about finance transformation processes. It's very good. It's quite eye-opening because in the world of, you get your LinkedIn feed and you get your YouTube feed and whatever else, and mine's just filled with AI. And when you get in a room and you speak to real people, and they go, "Yeah, we haven't really started with anything on AI yet," and then you get a whole room of people, and the majority of people are saying that, and like, actually, you know what? It's okay. And one of the things that dawned on me while I was there is that you keep thinking, "Oh, we're behind," but it's not the fact. Well, if I'm in a room of people who are all interested in shaping the future of finance, and that's how and they're kind of the people who are interested in driving those things forwards, and the majority of people have not really started on that journey yet. On that basis, you're not really behind, but also because stuff moves fast, and stuff changes so quickly, it's easy to just jump over all of that junk in the middle that existed and now doesn't. So therefore, your ability to catch up is probably easier than you think. So while you think, "Oh, I'm getting behind," actually, all that stuff the stuff that you cared about 6 months ago, we no longer care about. So you can just kind of jump over all of that and get the good stuff right now, if that's where you wanted to go. So yeah, that's where I've been. That was good.
Very good. I did see a photo on LinkedIn, I think, that you shared, and you seem to have the group around you in the palm of your hand. They were engaged, smiling.
I just happened to be in the middle of the photo. I was just a participant. So no.
All very good. And Giles?
Yeah, back in the UK. 3 weeks in a motorhome, but to Bruges and Amsterdam. Met the London Excel meetup gang in Amsterdam, which was great. So yeah, just recovering a bit now. I'm really tired, but we just released our first full episode of Excel on the Road, which was good fun, I think.
Yes, I saw that. I especially liked the interview with Alan Murray outside. What was the name of the Chipsy King?
What was it? Yeah,
Chipsy King, which is a great name for a fish and chip shop.
Chipsy King. Brilliant. So yeah, I was kind of intentionally leaning into Copilot and just having a little jab at it every now and then. So almost every question to the MVPs was like, do you want to talk about Copilot? Did you use Copilot? And everyone was like, no, no. There's another black mark on my MVP renewal. Doing well.
Any eye-opening things about the camper van journey in terms of life in a camper van? Any surprises? Any annoyances? Did you?
Oh, loads. Learned so much. So like just from a motorhome sort of learning experience, getting used to like refilling gas, which I'd never really done before. That's an experience. Navigating the very small confined space of a motorhome with another.
And when you're saying refilling gas, for our American listeners, you're talking about filling up from because you've done that before. You've not been a pampered boy who's had the chauffeur fill their car forever. You're talking about like a gas bottle.
I mean a proper gas bottle. So yeah, you've got electric. If we booked campsites, so we were always hooked up to electricity. But it's nice to have the gas on. You can do a bit of cooking, that kind of stuff. But that's an experience. I'd never been to a petrol station and filled up gas.
Seems dangerous, doesn't it? Because there's always a smell.
It feels dangerous when you're doing it. Yeah. Feels dangerous, but and one place I went to, this was in Amsterdam or just outside Amsterdam. There was a guy just casually having a cigarette like outside the shop of the petrol station. I was like, this is not great. So yeah, lots of learnings. Our UK leg is coming up next, so we're going to go at the very least to like Bristol, Leeds, Edinburgh, Liverpool, back for London, ready for the Global Excel Summit. I think Faye and I were talking about we might go to Accountex. I've never been to that before, but it's a few days before GES. So we might try and go to that, and we're gonna see who we can meet and speak to. We actually spoke to a bunch of students in Amsterdam Uni, which was awesome. So it was the first time Faye and I had done this kind of joint talk together, which I really enjoyed.
I will be at Accountex. I've got a slot in the Skills Theatre, I think it is.
Okay, cool. Oh, well, if you're going to be there, like we'll come along and we'll come and support or mock whatever feels right in the moment. Yeah.
My topic is, I think my title is, it's 2026. So why are your Excel skills still in 1993? That's my title.
All right, we'll come along. We'll get some banners.
Good, I'll see you there.
Marky.
Does that fill you with joy or fear, Mark?
with Giles being there, I mean, he's heard me talk before, and one time he's fallen asleep, and the other time he said it was really good. And actually, I don't think I've shared this on the podcast. On the time he didn't fall asleep, he said to me after, he said, I've never heard that term before. That's really interesting thing to think about pairwise lifting. I said, well, that's probably the bit you missed from the first session when you fell asleep.
He said to me after he heard me talk, he went, I'm surprised. That was actually quite good.
Did I say it like that? Was it? Maybe. Yeah.
I think we both had quite a bit to drink, so it could have been anyway.
That's probably true. Yeah, so all good.
Very good. Very good. I've just been far too busy prepping for the Power BI versus Excel debate to no.
I mean, you two need the time, so yeah, it's good you start early.
I'm concerned if they're actually prepping and we're not. Like, it would be embarrassing to lose at this, Giles, in the Global Excel Summit if we get like smashed to pieces because they've actually prepared some stuff.
It's looking impressive. I was going to share something with you today, Steve.
No, yeah, do that, Win. I'm prepped.
But weirdly, my publish to Webb has been disabled, and I'm the tenant admin. So
It's me and Mark just stitching you two up in the background.
Yeah,
Getting in
no,
there.
you couldn't do that because we've got the security wrap around it. But
That's what you think.
It's all
How
good.
is the publish to web thing useful? I'm now concerned.
Or just to share with Sue what I was my demo.
No, don't you worry about it, Mark.
We've got demos. We've got demos.
This is meant to be like a debate. You're just going to.
No,
you're not allowed to use the screen.
This is proving why Power BI is better than Excel. You know, you can't just have a slide deck up. Oh.
When you
can't have anything up. We're talking.
Don't say any more, Win. Do not say any more.
This is why we need to prepare, Giles.
All right, I'm up for that.
You have
Let's have a chat.
You have Win, and then you have me, who I would say is probably fairly competitive.
Now, Giles, when I say prepare, I don't mean working out how many dancing girls you want. That's not preparation.
If I'm going to be at the Excel Summit saying how good Power BI is, do you think I'm going to turn up unprepared?
Yeah, with 2 PowerPoint slides. Come on, people.
2 PowerPoint slides.
Raise
Mark, we can vibe this out. It's fine. Also, have you seen? Oh, by the way, news. Mark and I are both nominated as finalists in the same category. Well, I say full stack modeler, and Mark Proctor, training provider of the year. And I have already made the commitment that I will bring a dance troupe and storm the stage if I win.
Excellent. When's voting?
Now, go and vote for whoever you think should win. Me.
Not based on dance troupes.
Definitely based on dance troupes.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to
it. Strong, but genuinely, it's a really strong group because there's Mark and Ken, and Maria and Susanna and there's another guy.
Excel Basement. I can't remember.
Basement.
I think that's the best website, isn't it?
Anyway, strong group, very strong group.
Cool. Sue, have you been following any of the FabCon stuff?
A little bit. Yeah,
which is conference going on in Barcelona?
No, Barcelona's September.
Oh no, it was Atlanta.
Is it Atlanta? It's Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So SQLCon, FabCon. Yeah, SQLCon and FabCon.
That's a lot of nerds in one room, isn't it?
That is a lot.
SQL and Fabric all combined together.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
My people, but that's a big old gang.
Yeah.
The one that's sort of the little announcement that sort of interest, or 2 announcements that interested me. One mentioned Excel, so that immediately caught my eye, which is essentially Dataflow Gen 2s can now export to Excel. And you can pass it certain parameters into your sort of M code to export in different ways. Like you can export as a table, you can export as a sheet, you can export directly to a chart. Again, I was trying to read the Microsoft Docs on it, which is not written for humans, some of those things.
That's it. I love going and I love being part of seeing the announcements. But I sort of veer back to Mark's point, a circle back, Mark, to your point at the beginning of I probably not, but I tend to get more excited when they're in production and I can use them. I like listening to what's happening, but I don't get too drawn into the weeds of it until I need to use it and that it's in production. But I like to know what's coming and what's new. But because exactly as you said, we can get so overwhelmed that you just get scared that you're falling behind. But actually, when you talk to people that are in industry, like you did and I've done and we've all done, we're all in that position. So I tend to sort of wait until I need it, and then I go in and research more.
Well, I think that everything's moving so. No, I mean, and this isn't just about AI, but over the past, since Microsoft 365 and you get dynamic arrays and all of that stuff has moved so fast and so many new tools have come along that actually no one's going deep enough into any of them. So the majority of people are now just have like a surface level understanding of of a lot of stuff. Therefore, they're not really implementing any of it and getting a deep enough benefit, because once they're like, oh yes, I really need to think about dynamic arrays, and then Python comes out in Excel. Oh, I really need to think about Python Excel. Therefore, they don't spend any more time on dynamic arrays, and then Office scripts, and then you've got new stuff in Power Query, and then you've got connections from Power BI to Excel, and therefore no one's actually gaining any benefit, and they're just stuck doing the same sum if that they did, every month for the last however many years. So I think there's an element of there's so much stuff happening that even the people who are trying to keep up only ever have a surface level understanding of those things.
Yeah, but that's, it is absolutely. I remember years and years ago, it's probably a decade ago, I worked at Exeter College, and probably shouldn't have said the name.
I'll leave the story there, Sue. Let's move on.
I'm editing. I'll take it out. We're at what time? 9:19. I was working at a college, and part of the role was to run the office exams. That you get for Excel and Office. I can't remember what they're called. Yeah. The ones for Excel and BI, PowerPoint, something like that. And I mean, obviously, I love taking IT exams because I just find that it's a really good way of developing your understanding of the package. I remember so many people came in to sit and take the Excel exam. I'm in Excel all day, every day. I know this. They all failed because they know their particular part of Excel really well. Because that's what they use every day. But then when it came to the other functions, and that was 10 years ago. So now with what Excel can do, it's like you said, Mark, I'm not a proper Excel user because I only know certain parts of it. I've got a good understanding and I could learn the rest if I needed to. But it's just evolved so dramatically in such a beautiful way as well, I think.
So the reason you're not an Excel user because you haven't emphasized the word user. An Excel user is every problem is I need Excel. It doesn't matter what the problem is. You need Excel. You need to order your takeaway. I'll make a list in Excel. I need to get a dashboard in Excel. I need to work out what's happening for Christmas. I'll do it in Excel. They are Excel users. You might be a Power BI user instead. So I think you've got to think more about the dependency rather than anything else in terms of.
If that's, then I would say I probably am an Excel user because anything.
No, because you also use Power BI.
You're not an Excel user if you're going to argue for Power BI. No. You're an Excel pretender if you're going to.
Yeah, but everything, Christmas list, Excel, marathon training, Excel, everything.
Anyone
Excel.
use Notion? Anyone used Notion before?
No.
Got into Notion. It's the one I've got a huge to-do list. It's really good. Worth a look.
Okay. You're saying about the sort of volume of the stuff changing. If you look at just this month's Fabric blog announcements, it's like 4 pages of scrolling of hyperlinks to all the announcements. It's like, well, that's how I'm not going to keep up with. There's no chance. There's just no chance. So the other one that was interested in there was the new planning feature. So this is sort of like budgeting and forecasting and planning inside Fabric. So you basically, it's using, anybody knows this, it's if anybody knows about this, infra river visuals. There was a bit of right back, but it was quite tricky to set up. So it looks like they've done a deal with Microsoft to integrate it. So you can basically import your actuals, bring up a budget, say, I want to increase this by 10% for the rest of the year, and et cetera, with security and write back to a Fabric SQL database. I tried to spin it up following the instructions online, failed at the very first click. So
what did you fail on?
What's that, sorry?
What did you fail on? Because InfraRiver, you have to pay for a license, don't you? So you don't have to pay for a license.
Yeah, but now they've introduced it, they've embedded it as a preview into Fabric. So no external licensing. It's actually Microsoft owned, and you just have to pay for compute. I'll just creating a link. First step on the blog post, go here, click this button, click link, did that. Sorry, that's not available. Okay. close.
Wait 6 months.
Like you
That's
say,
gonna be, I mean, that's brilliant because Infra
Yeah.
River is an amazing graphic.
yeah, so it's basically
Really,
this
really
white
good.
feature inside. So it's pretty cool. It'll be, it's right in the sweet spot for what our business, Access Analytics,
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
We have budgeting and forecasting tools that we use with clients, and if we can integrate that with Fabric as well, then awesome. So I was like really keen, but
Yeah.
in preview for a reason, failed straight away.
Because you can, I mean, part of it is you don't want to, for small businesses, you don't necessarily want a Fabric license. But if you use the little F2 capacity that you turn on and off, it becomes affordable.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm excited for that.
The other interesting one was Power BI was the new custom totals. So this goes back to the sort of Greg Deckler days of like totals being broken in Power BI. So sometimes if you're doing like averages and stuff, you want the total maybe to be the sum of averages. More often it's like a distinct count, and you want the total to be the sum of the distinct counts of the different line items and stuff. It's a bit weird. You have to have seen it to understand it, really. But they've now enabled a little, as preview, the option to sort of right click and say, use your own total. Actually do just sum up the cells above, rather than having DAX do some weird sort of, write some weird DAX. It'll help a lot of people who've been moaning about this. I've never had an issue with it, but
no. Well, normally you have to do two, don't you? You have to do, if it's at row level, do this sum. If it's at total level, do this sum.
Yeah. So it makes the formulas more complicated. So that should simplify things, which is good. And then some new color defaults and things, and also defaulting the page to 1080 by 1920. So more of a high def type default. So certain things like that, making it all look a bit nicer, which is lovely. So there you go. That's a bit of updates.
Copilot update. Had the Copilot update.
Oh,
edit with Copilot.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's called Edit with Copilot now, which is a strange name, right?
So I was chatting to Faye about this. It feels like it makes more sense. Like, just intuitively, the fact that it is editing, like you are doing the more agentic thing of, rather than it just telling you something back. My God, have they taken a weird long route to get there? But I don't know. To us, we were talking about it. It feels like it's maybe a bit better aligned now. But I don't know what you three think.
Yeah, because you can create with it, as well as, for me, editing is more fixing something after it's been created. But you can also create from scratch with it. But it's definitely about, whatever they want to call it. They'll change the name in a month's time. It's pretty much guaranteed. The other one I saw that was announced was that there was a new E7 license.
Yeah.
So there's enterprise levels of licensing and stuff for Office. And E5 used to be the biggie. I don't know what happened to E6. I've never heard of E6, but they've gone straight to E7 because it must be 2 times better. And that basically includes 365 Copilot on top of everything else, including a Power BI license, Pro license and everything, plus Agent 365 that I had to look up. And that's really just IT admin monitoring of agents. So
how much was it? Did you say how much it was?
It was $100 a month, but don't hold me to that. I think so. So a little bit cheaper than buying everything separately. I was listening to Rob Colley's podcast. The name's gone out of my mind now. But they were saying that, again, this is just me on a podcast talking about something else I heard in a podcast from somebody who said they heard something. So don't take this anyway. They heard someone on another podcast say, so this is worse than the bloke down pub. They heard someone say that, like, the actual running cost for Copilot is massive compared to the $30 that they're currently charging, and they're just banking on getting the volume up front. Maybe banking on a lot of people not using it. That's a complete guess. But also the fact that the technology will lower the need for compute. So as the models get better, then there'll be a huge decrease in the cost of running these queries and things. So, yeah, that's an interesting thought. No idea if it's got any fact based behind it whatsoever. But
I saw something, and I put this in the. We've got a WhatsApp group between various MVPs. I put this in there about to double the capability of AI takes 5 times the compute, electricity, and infrastructure. So there's almost like a race between, because they're all trying to get to like AGI and further, but there's almost like they need to get to a certain level where AI can then solve some of the problems around resources, or else otherwise you end up with the cost to run it will like the cost to run those models, it will always be higher than the benefit you can get from them. So you get something that's doubling, so that's got an exponential growth, but then you've got something that's going 5 times, so that's the growth on that is even higher. So I think on the thing I was looking at, they said that because of that, companies like OpenAI, because they don't have any other revenue sources, actually that's all they can do is get investment. And eventually it'll come to the point that people will say, well, why would we keep investing in something when there's no future in that? So therefore they think a lot of the AI only companies will end up being bought by other entities that have other sources of income. So we'll see.
I've got another podcast recommendation. So Paul Barnhurst had Brian Jones on that. I can't remember his exact title. Is he head of products? But he's like the head of Excel, pretty much, isn't he, at Microsoft? Yeah. So he just released that podcast episode, which was really interesting. And Brian was talking a lot, obviously, about Copilot and their plans. One of the things he said, and don't quote me on this because I was driving. I was trying not to crash the motorhome at the time. But he was talking about, like, in Excel with editing Copilot now, you can add a tab, call it skills, and Copilot can reference the tab. And essentially, I think it's like, adding context to whatever's going on behind the scenes with agent in Copilot. But I do need to rewatch it to understand exactly what he said. You were nodding, Mark. Have you heard this?
Yes. So we've prepared some training on various with Copilot things, and so effectively what I've been doing is that you have a sheet. I mean, I don't combine skills, but instructions or whatever else. You list out all of the tasks that you want AI to do on that workbook, and then your prompt in the prompt window is like run task 6 from the instructions. That's cool. Therefore it means that you don't, people talk about, we need to save prompts. Well, your prompt is there in the workbook, and as things improve over time, you can then keep adding to your prompts over time to slowly improve them. But also, if you've got shared context that you want across workbooks, you can have that shared context in one workbook, and then you power query in to your main workbook. So if you've got shared context, you click refresh, that pulls all your shared context in, and then anything that you run is then just one sentence, run task, whatever, from the skill sheet or whatever you happen to call it.
That's cool.
Is this actually a use case for import CSV? That you could just have all your prompts in a CSV or a text file, import text? No.
Mark's not convinced.
So Richard Willis Hutchinson off link, he commented on the Unpivot LinkedIn sort of last post from last week. And he said, you might be interested in this, which is an interview with the Claude Code developer guy called Boris Cherney. And I politely said, great, thanks, thinking I'm probably never going to watch that. But actually, I did start watching it, and I got sucked in to the guy who talking about, and he's like such a normal, down-to-earth sort of guy, who was talking about how he developed Claude Code just accidentally, and suddenly went, "Ooh, this is actually quite good, isn't it?" And that's like 2024. Oh. And then he was talking about how he used to work at Meta, because he works at Anthropic now. He used to work at Meta, and he was in charge of productivity. And if they made a 2% or 3% productivity gain in engineers, that was hailed as a success. And with Claude Code, they're basically getting 100, 150% productivity out of engineers. Wow. And his sort of skills, because in Claude, you can put an MD file, which is like your skills file with all your instructions. He said his is like 2 or 3 key lines, whereas lots of other engineers have got hundreds and thousands, to try and cope with every scenario. But his viewpoint was, if the model doesn't do what you want it to do today, it's probably often not worth investing time to build all the workarounds around it to get it to work, because by the time you've done that, the model will be able to do it. It's moving that rapidly, especially inside Anthropic, but there's sort of the scaling of it. And he said something like, what was it, that almost 80%, I think, or only 10% of the code is the same as last month or 2 months ago in Claude code.
Wow.
Because it's reiterating itself constantly. So the code is constantly being optimized and rewritten and redeveloped, and the models are getting better all the time to do that. I'll put a link in the show notes. Really, it's not the sort of thing that I would normally sit down and watch. It's a little panel interview with him. But it's quite an engaging discussion, and just like, you go, wow, this stuff is, how they're seeing it. It's like anything you build as an app developer, you've got to be thinking about 6 months ahead now, because the model will be able to code it in a better way in 6 months' time. So.
Did anyone else hear any of the stories from, and again, this is kind of I heard it from possibly an unreliable source around Amazon, and they've had a lot of issues recently, and the issues have predominantly stemmed from them implementing AI agents to push code and to generate code. And therefore, they've had a lot of outages and cancelled shipments and various other things. And ultimately, I think that the conclusion was that Amazon are now employing more people so that they can review the code that the AI is generating. And as a result, they're probably not getting the benefit from the AI that they thought they were going to get.
I haven't heard that.
Somebody did mention that to me the other day. But again, they heard it from someone. Unverified sources. Let's just make things up. We could just make things up, couldn't we? Hallucinations on the podcast themselves. All good. And then the last little one I had was, anyone hear about the co-work announcement by Satya? So preview of, like, coming soon, the end of this month, I think they're going to start rolling it out. So Microsoft Co-work, which is basically allowing all the agents inside Office to talk to each other and trigger other elements to run and try and automate all your processes. So essentially, you're triggering agents to trigger other agents and just run off and do all sorts of things. And because it's within the Microsoft sort of graph, it's got access to your OneDrive, your emails, your Teams meetings, your notes. It's got everything that you've got access to. So it's that whole review my, upcoming items, go and book a meeting room, send off an email, set up a Teams channel, blah, blah, blah. You can just set all that up to go off and run into its own pretty little future, which is where that sort of Agent 365 admin piece comes in, because then you can actually give agents specific sort of licenses and stuff for them to do things. And then you can monitor what agents are doing and all that. So it becomes like an IT, it basically becomes like a worker, an agent within your company.
Just have to be careful, because I think I've mentioned it before that, it helpfully tried to send an invoice from one customer to another customer, thinking it was, it didn't happen because of the folder setup and the security setup. But if you're going to let it not run amok, if you're going to automate so many things, you need to think about what's stored where, and is it going to suggest this and this for a meeting for you and include this memo? But if the memo is not put somewhere or called something that isn't suitable for preview, so you're just going to have to be really careful about the context of everything and where, which you should be. In theory, you should be, but in reality, well,
we've sort of grown up with the horrible world of linked Excel sheets, which you try and trace one sheet to another sheet, etc., etc. And you can open Excel file and work out where it's pulling data from. But you can't really open an Excel file and say what files are pulling from it. There's not that lineage type view. And I think some of these things, I've certainly built things in the past with like Power Automate and pushing the data to a database. And, because I've done it for myself, the documentation is pretty much non-existent. And you don't know, this form, here actually sends data via this Power Automate to this database, which then triggers this sort of Power Pivot Excel file to update, unless you've made the effort to document that. And I fear that sort of, this just gets a bit worse in terms of that, but maybe those tools will be there to help document this, which is always a boring task. Maybe that'll be a bit of a godsend.
Yeah.
I suppose the problem is that the problem is that it's all untested, isn't it? So, if in your scenario there, when you've got a Power Automate flow, at some point you created that flow, you click test, it did what you wanted. You went through and you check whether it works. But when it's just doing something by itself and not in a consistent manner, I think that would make me quite nervous.
And also sometimes that you produce a solution as okay, this is a proof of concept, this works, and you do it quickly, and then it's used, and you want to go back and refine it, and it's like, but there's, no, we're happy, and you're like, yeah, but I could, no, it's good. Next thing. So sometimes there's it's just good enough rather than it's excellent.
Definitely made the mistake in the past of showing a client like the first draft of something that actually does what they want. Within a day, and then you then spend 14 days making it bulletproof and testing all the scenarios and documenting it, and they're just like, it's actually running slower now. And you're like, I added this in and I had to check that, and then spat out a check sheet if there were no matches and did all this sort of stuff. And they're sort of like disappointed. Wondering why it took you so long. I could have just taken that one after one day. That would have been great. And it's just like, mistakes you make. Don't show the early cuts. Especially not working fully. That's never a good idea. Right, hold on. We need to do folks to follow.
Yes.
Do we have some people that you've got, folks? I'm going to do let's get in there with a slightly different tune. Same tune, bit of a remix. Here we go. Okay.
These are the folks you gotta follow. They're sharing stuff you gotta know. We'd recommend them all day long. That's the end of this intro song.
Now it says it's the end of the intro song, but that instrumental goes on for like 10 minutes. Right. Anyway. Okay. Who'd like to go first? Sue, do you want to go first?
Me. I am going to go for Mr. Chris Webb.
Classic.
That is a classic follow. Not only is he technically awesome, he's just such a nice man. So yes, Chris Webb. I'll put it. So his blog post is. Just looked it up. Crossjoin, I think it's called. Blog.crossjoin.co.uk. And he's great because he covers both Excel and Power BI. And I said to him, I can now understand all of your posts rather than the first half. So,
he likes getting into the weeds a bit, doesn't he?
He does.
Real heavy techie stuff.
Yeah. And I got a compliment from him. He listened to my tabular editor presentation. He went, "You've taught me something." Oh my God, really? Thank you. And then he did follow it up by saying, "Yeah, but I don't use Tableau Editor very often." I'm just going to ignore that second bit and go for the first.
Cool.
Christmas.
Excellent. Mark, do you want to go?
I'm going to name George Mount.
Oh,
George he's a Microsoft MVP, but he does share a lot on LinkedIn, and he is writing blog posts. But I'd say he was an early kind of AI adopter in the kind of Excel, well, kind of that space. And I think that even now he's taking a more pragmatic, realistic approach to implementing it, rather than the you just see so much stuff around. Oh, just type this 3-line prompt and click go. And it seems like for most people, if you give it a vague answer and it gives you a vague output, that's deemed to be success. But George I think he's taking a much more pragmatic approach. He's got some articles recently about, well, how do you actually verify the output of AI, which nobody talks about. They just say, oh, in agent mode, just type this. And then they say, obviously, you need to check the outputs. But how do you check the outputs? So he's got some posts around how you automate checking of outputs. It's some initial stuff, some thoughts. So yeah, the things he's been writing has been really helpful to me just to rethink through various things. So George Mount.
It's been interesting on like the MVP email chat as well, or the group email, seeing him kind of push back on some things, or give feedback on things like the advertising with Microsoft, which I think is quite cool. Like, I know not everybody agrees, but it's nice to see somebody that's in that space training it, saying, this could be better.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Yeah, go.
Karen Abecia. So we're behind the curve on this. She's got a huge following all over the place. 180,000 on Instagram, like 50, 60,000 on LinkedIn. I'm sure she's on other platforms. I hosted the Global Excel Summits Community Day last weekend, I think it was, on Saturday, virtual one. And the speakers were amazing. She was the standout. And she did a load of stuff on visuals, like data viz stuff in Excel. And she was just brilliant. Like, she was really funny, really engaging. She's not fluent in English. I think she's Brazilian, and I hope I haven't got that wrong. She can speak English, but she's clearly not fluent, and it didn't stop her one bit. But everybody was just so positive. So Karen is a huge kind of top person on my list to go and follow.
Excellent, great tip. And my one is Eugene Meidinger. So SQL Gene is his blog. Lots of interesting posts. He's got a podcast called Figuring Out Fabric, who's sort of like self-teaching himself and sort of helping others as well. And there's some really interesting blog, but you can find them on LinkedIn and Blue Sky and probably on X as well. But like some of his blog posts are entitled things like How I Keep Up with AI and Why Honestly You Shouldn't Bother. A Beginner's Guide to Vibe Engineering. Welcome to Vegas. These sorts of like just thought-provoking, sort of, just realistic. They're cool. It's cool. So he's working for Tableau Editor as well now. So they just joined them recently. So check out worth a follow.
They seem to be scooping up some very, very, very good people.
The Tableau Editor folks. Yeah. It's obviously a growing company. So all good. Right, we're actually going to do question of the week, which we missed last week.
My goodness.
This.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Revelation.
It's all good. Hold on, a bit more volume. Right.
What
this means Sue, you've got to edit 2 jingles into the podcast this week. That's why I just wanted to hand over this to anyone else to edit.
I'm okay.
Right. Cool.
It's that time in the Unpivot show where we pose a question and tell you what we know. We may be right, we may be wrong. It's just an excuse to play this song. It's the question, it's the question, it's the question of the week. It's the question, it's the question, it's the question of the week.
I do think that's my favourite.
Yeah.
It's a great jingle.
I've still got a soft spot for the original one. The guy sounds a little bit Aussie with his accent, but you know.
What's that? Can we go down memory lane for one second?
Here we go.
Oh, that's
It's the
great.
question, it's the question, it's the question.
Banger as well.
It's
Yeah.
the question, it's the question, it's the question of the day.
And then what about the accordion one? Where have you got the accordion one?
Stop it, Mark Proctor.
Let's just put them all on. Let's just go through the whole repertoire.
Just do the accordion one.
This is Friday morning. I have to get this edited and out tomorrow.
People have got.
Oh yeah, please can we
Quick
keep
from
going because
war.
this is adding to Sue's admin. What were the
Yes. Stop.
You have to just cut that.
Yeah.
Right. Question of the week. Probably everybody's forgotten what it was. So,
No idea.
100% accurate or directionally correct? Where should your focus be on your reporting and outputs and analysis and etc. etc.? So, this is the sort of thing of, you know, how much time do you spend trying to make something 100% correct? Is that ever even possible? Is it critical? Or if you're making the right decisions, is that okay? Anybody want to kick off with a viewpoint on this one?
I can start with a short viewpoint
Okay.
and then see where it unfolds. I think the key point is not about the output, but about the process. So if you've got a process which delivers 100% what you expect, whether that is directionally correct or 100% correct, then that's okay. And provided you know that is one or the other, then that's fine. So from a financial modeling perspective, you know, if you know what your margins are, if you know what your overheads are, and they're going to remain consistent, you're happy to forecast out for a long period of time. Now we know that there'll be changes that will come along. Things will change. That you know, your overheads aren't always exactly that number. Your margins aren't always exactly that. But equally, you know that you're happy that your process is 100% correct based on what your expectations around what you've given. So I think it's not about being one or the other, but if your process delivers what you think it's delivering, in that case, I think it's fine. Either way.
That's so complicated. I don't know if I agree with you.
I think I disagree
What?
because I think hey, you know, it depends. Obviously, it's like a financial forecast. Definitely directionally correct. Okay, a forecast can't be 100% accurate. But if it's not accurate, gut feel can give you the wrong direction. So I think accuracy for business critical things, I think accuracy is overrides what you, because directionally correct relies on gut feel.
I love a bit of gut feel. Then.
But the key point is that in that scenario, your process isn't giving you what you expect. So if you want something that's 100% correct, then your process needs to deliver something that's 100% correct. Therefore, I think it's about what the process and the expectations around that process are.
So, real example, worked for a company, won't name them, long time ago. Their business decisions, their future planning and everything else was based on a spreadsheet that the output felt right to the business owners, but the calculations were incorrect. And actually, they were just hiding a massive bunch of trouble that was going to hit them in a couple of years' time. So that lack of accuracy, the output was directionally correct, but not giving them the answer they really needed.
Can I throw in, I think you answered it at the start of what you said, when it just depends. Like in financial modeling world, the extremes on both ends are both as bad as each other. If you're too gut feely, high level, potentially inaccurate. That's not great. But you don't want to go to the most accurate possible level either, because at some point there's just no like incremental gain for the additional accuracy. So I think there's a bit of a balance. It depends what you're doing. And I always use the example in financial modeling of like project finance is probably the most extreme, complex version of financial modeling. You can't really be directionally correct. Project, you need to be pretty accurate, albeit it's still a forecast. Whereas I remember when I was an employee, I'd build these models and you'd sit with a CFO in a meeting and they'd already have a gut feel for what it is. So they just want that, okay, we're broadly directionally where I already thought we were. So I think it just depends what you're doing.
It's really interesting. Because Power BI can be used to create the most amazing visualizations, I've come up where people have been shown Power BI reports. And this is brilliant. Look at it. And then they go, what's that number? That number's not right. And this is usually, where I get called in, because the model's terrible. So the numbers aren't right. So I think the numbers have to be right because you need to make a decision. Now, whether that is within a percentage of flex between this and this, depending upon the business circumstances, then that is the business decision as to whether it has to be completely 100% accurate or whether they're aware that there are certain things that can have an element of flex. But it needs to be clearly stated what is being measured, how it's being measured, which goes to Mark's process, and what the outcome is expected to be. And once you have that strong flow of what you're expecting to have at the end, then even if there is a slight flex or margin, when you're comparing it across time or across projects, those rules are consistently applied. So I think I would probably actually, surprisingly, defer back to Mark's that the process has to be correct, together with a firm communication as to what the process is, and if there is expected to be flex, why, but it's being aware that it's the trend that you're measuring and forecasting on. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with you, Mark.
Can I follow up with a simple example?
Mm-hmm.
So let's suggest that you've got some commentary, some finance commentary, and your commentary says that your variance between budget is 0.3, and that's made up of 0.1 of something and 0.1 of something else, and that is 100% correct because of rounding, right? So even with rounding, we're suddenly losing accuracy. Which means that we're already in a directionally correct scenario. As soon as you round a number, you are already talking about a level of directionally correct. Now, in that scenario, would you say, actually, we want those numbers, that in that context, even though it should round to 0.3, do we want it to say 0.2? Because that will be the addition of the numbers. Or do you say, well, it should be 0.3 because that's how the number breaks down? And at a previous company, we spent a long period of time deciding even these small things. When you talk about commentary and break down numbers, how are they rounded? How should that work so that people understand the numbers better? Now, either one is wrong, right? Because you've got 0.1 plus 0.1 doesn't equal 0.3. If you change it to 0.2, that doesn't represent the numbers. So you're already in a directionally correct kind of scenario, even in a simple thing of just adding two numbers together.
Yeah. But as soon as someone looks at that, they will say, well, that's 0.1, that's 0.1. Why is that 0.3? That's wrong. So if they then look at your numbers and they think they're wrong, then they lose trust in the reporting system. So
but just to add to that.
But that's where you need to document. Even if what I love about Power BI is the little I button. So you can put a little I button that hovers over it and it will say these numbers are, so you can be really clear. But yeah, sorry, Giles.
No, sorry, it's me interrupting. So I don't know whether what I'm about to say supports your argument or not, Mark. So I'll say it. So take your example. There's a rounding of like 0.01% of something. Again, I think of financial modeling terms. If that's like 0.01% or 0.1% of labor cost, which is 5% of an overall cost base, a change in that, like increasing year by year, isn't going to make any material difference whatsoever. If it's like 0.1 of the base inflation rate for the hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue that are coming in each year, it does make a difference. And as I say, I don't know whether what I've just said is me defending your position or arguing against it, because I'm still tired after my motorhome trip. Maybe you can tell me.
I think it goes down to the process, doesn't it, and the business need. If what you're calculating needs the significance of the decimal figures in it, then you make sure your process reflects that and your documentation.
So maybe I'm supporting Mark. I think it's 3 against 1 now. Then, Wynne, sorry.
So, I guess if the output is, influencing business decisions and therefore having financial impact, which really any reporting you're producing should be having some business impact, otherwise there's not a lot of point in doing it, then there's a trade-off, right, between how much time you spend checking every single number, which is virtually impossible, versus having confidence that, okay, the numbers that are being produced are giving me are driving me in the right direction. And there's this trade-off in terms of, I think, that criticality of the decision and the consequences of it, about, do you need to get this reviewed by somebody else? What's the, and again, sort of, I probably am saying, what's the overall process around that element to get it, that you trust the output. But sometimes I think it needs that accuracy in there, and the directionally correct one is can be a bit of a misnomer if there haven't been enough proper checks and balances put in the first place, because it feels right, the number feels right, it looks right, and but it's something along the way has let you down because you haven't done that sort of detailed checking.
Can I give you an example of that?
Scenario.
Can I give you a quick example of that? Where did this come up? Some KPIs work. Maybe it was something I was talking about through with Faye. When you've got really good metrics, KPIs that you're looking at, you might have like an overriding increase in revenue by like 3% or something, or a decrease, but like that at the high level might be directionally what you expect, but you can't see why at that level. So there needs to be a level below that in terms of your metrics that say, okay, well, this is because in this region we spent money on a huge marketing campaign that drove 10% higher sales, but in these regions actually there's been a decline in revenue and sales and things like that. So that overriding slight increase masks a whole series of things at the next level that are going on by region, or with pricing decisions or campaign decisions and things like that.
A bit like a drill down in a Power BI report, which allows you to take the total and see what it's made up from.
If I think about, even from a production perspective, so you've got your raw materials and people produce whatever they produce. Now, a lot of businesses will use a standard costing measure, like this is our standard cost of this unit. But there's materials being bought in at different prices and different values. So therefore, even the basic idea of this is our standard cost per unit, to some degree, you're already saying we're willing to lose accuracy on this. Now, that means that in your process, you need to have periods where you be like, right, we need to review our standard cost. Or what are the triggers to review standard cost? If the cost of raw materials increases by 10%, you can't just be like, oh, well, last week's standard cost was X, so let's just continue to use that. So your process needs to have the triggers in there to make sure that you then review at the right level at the right time, to make sure that your numbers, your standard costs, are still directionally correct. Now, in that scenario, you might do a whole load of work, a huge amount of work, to get a directionally correct number, because it is a standard cost. Ultimately, you're saying it is directionally correct, so it doesn't necessarily mean that directionally correct doesn't involve a lot of work. It can involve a lot of work to determine what your direction is. I think often also the challenge comes from when you start with directionally correct, and then somebody asks a question, and you have your directionally correct, and then you have to keep proving your hypothesis of why it's directionally correct, and it keeps getting broken down, and so you end up with, I've seen 5-year plans where people are like, oh, it's a 5-year plan, it's just high level, and then it comes along to be like, oh well, you said your margin is 32%, why? And you're like, well, just because it is, but you don't know that going forward. Therefore, people keep being pushed on these things that are meant to be high level, and it's not high level. So you always have to work at the minimum level of granularity for the thing that you need to do. And one more thought I've got is that also the even with actuals, you might get your actuals cost in, and I'm sure we've all worked for businesses where there are cost centers and different costs get divided up against. This cost center gets 30% of this cost, and you get 20% of this cost, and you get however much of this cost, and all of that is just a directional guess. But once at the start of the year, once everyone's happy, we're happy with this process and how it works, then to some degree it then doesn't matter, as long as you're capturing all of those elements and people understand what the implications of those are.
I have to go, by the way, guys. I've got to go and get my dog from Bournemouth. I've only got an hour and 45 minutes, and I miss my dog. So,
well, I think our listeners are quite convinced that we've solved that, and
I'm convinced.
And I think you're both right, actually.
It's 100% correct or 100% accurate.
Yeah, one or the other. Take your pick.
Directional or 100% correct. Anywhere in that spectrum. Anywhere in that spectrum.
Gut feel.
Okay.
Gut feel. Vibe it out.
Vibe code it. Having just done some payroll calculations and got my percentage wrong on my superannuation pension contributions for staff. 100% accurate, folks. Sometimes.
That's very
correct, but they would not have been happy. So thank you to my colleague Marsha for picking that error up. Divide by one.
That's not an error you want to make on a payroll.
That's a process.
Yes. Caveat: payroll 100% accurate. For payroll.
100%. We agree. All right, folks. Lovely to chat to everybody. Have a good couple of weeks, and catch everybody next time.
See you later.
on.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.